I've seen dispatchers lose thousands of dollars. Not because they're not working hard, but simply because everybody keeps making the same 5 mistakes. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay completely updated. You do not have to take everything that's posted on that load board just because it's the highest bid. For example, before you book that load, did you check the deadhead mileage? How many miles is it going to take for that driver to get from the current location he's at to the next pickup? Honestly, rule of thumb for me, if it's more than about 150 deadhead miles, and that's absolute max, it really shouldn't be. Typically it's about 50 miles takes an hour. So if it takes them more than about an hour and a half to get there, that is too many deadhead miles for me. So in my mind, I honestly would say stay below 150 for sure. It has to be a great rate for you to go above 150 deadhead miles. But honestly, the least amount of deadhead miles, the better. If you could avoid them in total, that's the best bet. Book that load for sure. This is a website that I use often that shows you how to calculate the exact locations from the driver's current location to the driver's pickup location that has the fuel cost associated with it. I use this tool every time I'm about to book a load just to make sure that we are getting paid a significant amount compared to what we'll be spending on fuel just to get there. Make sure the load makes sense for the driver's schedule. Try not to play with the driver's sleeping schedule because that can create a fatigue event. And also, you don't want it to be a situation where your driver is done, reset, ready to roll at 8 a.m. and the pickup you found doesn't pick up until 9 p.m. I would drop you like a bad habit if I was that driver because that's 12 hours of not making any money. Just make sure you're trying to keep your driver on a consistent schedule. They'll thank you tremendously for it, and it makes your job a lot easier. Always go the extra mile to make sure if they were leaving at 1300 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there's no reason for them to be leaving at 2100. So just try to keep them on a consistent schedule for sure. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen over and over is dispatchers trying to dispatch for the entire United States instead of becoming an expert on the lanes that they are actually running. You don't get paid for knowing the entire United States. You get paid for making smart decisions that benefit your driver profitably. I have seen with my own 2 eyes a dispatcher open up the load board and filter out the loads highest paying to lowest paying. And although that rate might look great on paper, I don't even think the dispatcher stopped and asked themselves questions to even figure out and determine if that was a good load for their carrier or not. So making mistakes like that will always be more damaging to the carrier and the driver that are going to pick that load up. Make sure you ask yourself, is the new delivery market a good area for the driver to easily get reloaded? How much deadhead am I creating if I book this load? Am I sending the driver to an area that does not have a lot of outbound freight? That can become a headache. Make sure you're always sending your driver somewhere that makes sense. Never book a load in an area where they're going to be sitting there for days trying to get another load to get out of that area, or they'll have to deadhead 500 plus miles to get from point A to point B to be able to start making profitable loads again. Be thinking about tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. So when you're booking these loads, make sure you ask yourself, is this lane still going to be profitable in the next 3 days? If not, it's not always worth it to book it. For example, in my role, I've grown to understand which lanes are consistently well performing because we've ran them so long that I now understand the freight patterns of that lane. I know where delays typically happen, what appointment times usually work best, and I know what the return freight usually looks like leaving out of that area. That experience helps me make better decisions before the truck even leaves the yard. Just thinking in the future, not planning just for the hour before, but planning the next day. It makes dispatching a whole lot easier if you have that driver on a consistent schedule, because at that point you're just doing paperwork and checking in with the driver to make sure that they're staying on schedule. Mistake number 3, which I also see is very prevalent. I don't know what happened, but a lot of people have lost the art of basic communication skills. So that's something that you're literally going to have to work on. Me, for example, I come from a generation where we're sending emails and text messages. Dealing with logistics, you have to become comfortable talking on the phone. Sometimes you don't have the 5 minutes to wait for a broker or a carrier to get back to you. You need to be calling people, and just having that basic communication skill with speaking on the phone and just basic communication etiquette will take you a long way. Also, express what you need from these brokers. If there's a really good load out there, but let's just say your driver's reset at 9 a.m., the pickup appointment is not until 12 p.m., ask them, hey, is there a possibility that we can get there a couple hours earlier and get loaded earlier so the driver can get loaded and hit the road and we can get to the delivery appointment earlier, which is ultimately what a lot of brokers like to hear anyway. Never be the person that just says, I'll take it. Always be negotiating for a higher profit for your carrier, and also making sure that you communicate any potential delays or anything that can potentially affect the load getting from point A to delivery on time. What if your driver runs into a delay? Make sure you communicate that almost immediately. As soon as you hang up with that driver, hey, I just had a blowout. I'm gonna be about 2 hours getting this fixed, waiting on the tech now. You need to be like, okay, thank you. Make sure you're somewhere safe. Make sure, you keep me updated. Immediately call the broker, hey, driver just had a blowout. There's about a 2-hour ETA for the technician to come fix the tire. We're going to be about 2 hours delayed to delivery or pickup, whatever the case may be. But make sure you're communicating, and even before you book that load, if you know for a fact the driver doesn't reset until 2 hours after the load appointment, don't just allow the driver to show up late. Always tell the broker, hey, we're good to go. We can get there still on time delivery, everything, but my driver doesn't reset until 16:30 compared to the 14:30 appointment. Is that something that we can still accept? And even when you are accepting that rate, they agree to it, make sure you're putting in that email, hey, we're committed to this load as long as we are A-okay with the 16:30 pickup appointment. And always CYA, literally. When it comes to logistics, CYA. Always make sure you are documenting everything. The best dispatchers don't just move trucks. They also make sure they're protecting the carrier. Make sure you have the basic safety guidelines from DOT and the FMCSA drilled into your brain. Do not allow your driver to do anything that would be illegal according to the DOT and FMCSA guidelines. Make sure you know them, and they're really basic. Make sure you know the driver's hours of service. Don't just know what the driver can drive daily. You also need to know what they can drive weekly and how long the reset needs to be daily and weekly. They're two different things. I would give you the answer, but I want you to go figure it out and drill it up here. That's extremely important. The driver just can't drive. There are legal things to make sure that we are keeping the driver safe for everybody on the road. It's not just to keep them safe, but the motoring public around them. We do not need any fatigued drivers on the road at all. Also, make sure your drivers are doing a pre and post trip every single load. I know that it can get annoying. I know people are going to probably hop in my comments and be like, I don't need to do it every single day. 3 times a week will do the job. That is not the legal guideline. The legal guideline is when you crank that truck up to start, and when you crank it down to end, you are doing a pre and post trip. And it's literally just to keep you safe as a driver, and make sure you're enforcing that as a dispatcher. Like, hey, let the broker know you might be about an hour delayed. Make sure you do your full pre-trip before you get there. It catches so many things. Tires, tread depth. Make sure they're checking the air pressure. They could have a small coolant leak that you wouldn't know if you're not doing the pre and post trip. So it is extremely important. Make sure you do them every single load. And I don't want to hear it. We can argue all day in the comments. It is the law. Do it every single load. Get it done. Check in with your drivers. I do it like every single quarter. I check in with them and make sure they have all of the proper legal documentation in their cabs, because any road stop, just make sure they're fully prepared. Make sure it's all in one spot. So it looks bad if you're a driver and you're like, oh, okay, so here's the insurance, well, let me go to the back. That might be where the cab card is. Like, yeah, don't do all of that. Make sure your drivers are organized, have everything in one spot, one binder, and it makes everybody's life a lot easier. We all love organization. Tip number 5 is very costly, because I see a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, only planning for today and being like, ooh, all right, we made some money for this day. Let me go about my day now. That is not how this works. You need to be planning for today, tomorrow, and the next day.
Next day, and the 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 next day.
Because hear me out. knowing where your driver is going to be going consistently for that entire week makes your life a lot easier. You don't have to wake up and do the hustle and bustle of getting on the load board at 4 a.m. trying to be the first fish to catch. What is it? The early bird catches the worm? Well, you don't want to do that. Plan it out in the head. That's the real early bird, not the person that wakes up at 4 a.m. on a daily basis. You're stressing yourself out. Be the early bird that's like, all right, 2 weeks from now we got 2 loads booked. Let me make sure I'm filling up the other 3 days. Like, just always go the extra mile. Do daily risk assessments. Check the weather. See if there's any traffic delays. Construction's a huge thing during the summer. Make sure you're checking the routes that the driver's going to take. Be like, hey, let's try to go to Highway 35 instead of 10. So, because they're shutting it down at this time and we still need to get there for an on-time delivery. Just doing those small things will definitely make your life easier, and it shows the driver and the carrier that you actually care about their business and you're doing everything that you can to help them be profitable, safe, and honestly thrive. It helps everybody. Logistics is perfect. Things are going to happen, and even the way you handle it, it just shows who you are as a dispatcher. There's no need to go whimping and crying because something went wrong. Deal with it, get it fixed, and make sure that that product gets to delivery, because that's ultimately what it's all about. Nobody gets paid until that BOL is signed and becomes your proof of delivery. So ultimately, you need to be doing everything you can to make sure there is no deductions and no delays with your money. This video was informative and giving you some tips on how to avoid making those 5 mistakes. If you have any questions, please make sure you're commenting. If this video helped you, make sure you like it. And you should be subscribed by now. If you made it this far, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also that notification bell. But I do have one question. What is the biggest mistake that you've seen as a carrier, dispatcher, driver, broker? There's so many people that watch my channel. What is the biggest mistake you've seen? And honestly, I would like to know, because I probably made some of these mistakes. So if you have some advice on how to avoid them, also comment that below too.